Have you ever noticed an almost impossible contradiction in the way Generation X raises their children? On one hand, they are hyper-vigilant. They organize the schedules, check the apps, and hover to make sure their kids feel emotionally supported. But at the exact same moment, there is a quiet, relentless toughness to them, a voice that suddenly slips out and says, "Just figure it out." How is it that the same parent who protects exhaustively is the one who demands total independence? At first, it is easy to assume this is just normal parenting stress, but that explanation doesn't quite land. What is happening here is the result of a psychological clash. They are trying to raise a generation that will never have to survive what they survived. Yet, there is a quiet defense mechanism shaping this dynamic, a secret that explains why their love often feels so contained. And to uncover what that is, we have to look at what Generation X found every single day when they came home from school. To understand how Gen X parents operate today, you have to look at the psychological environment they survived. If you grew up in the 1970s and 80s, your childhood was fundamentally different. You were likely a latchkey kid, letting yourself into an empty, silent house every afternoon. You grew up with what psychologists call benign neglect. You were physically safe, but emotionally unsupervised. When you are 8 years old and no one is coming to rescue you, you don't just learn to be independent, you learn a brutal lesson. Help is not automatic, and comfort is not guaranteed. Your nervous system was programmed to believe that you had to save yourself because no one else was going to do it for you. This brings us to a fascinating psychological paradox and a clash of realities. Today, because of their own childhoods, Gen X parents deeply want their kids to feel supported in a way they never were. But deep down, their nervous system still remembers the lessons of that empty house. They carry the quiet belief that hardship builds character. This creates a unique emotional tension. When their child faces a problem, the Gen X parent's first instinct is often a tough love response, telling them to figure it out, while secretly making sure they don't fall too far. They sound tough even when they're trying to help, because they believe that true resilience only comes from navigating the world without a safety net. But this raises an unavoidable question. If they care so much, why is it so difficult for them to show vulnerability and affection in the way modern culture demands? The answer lies in a profound layer of emotional translation. Gen X grew up in an era where feelings were treated as an inconvenience. If you were sad, you were told to toughen up, and if you cried, you were told you were being dramatic. As a result, they developed what can be called emotional minimalism. They learned to function through their feelings rather than talk about them. So, as parents, their love doesn't look like endless verbal validation. Instead, their love language is an intense, quiet reliability. They show love by fixing what is broken, showing up when it matters, and handling the crises quietly before you even notice them. Furthermore, because they grew up watching institutions crack and stability crumble on TV, they developed a finely tuned internal alarm system and a deep cynicism. They don't trust the world to be kind. So what they are actually doing is trying to equip their children with the armor of self-reliance. They want their kids to be soft enough to be happy, but tough enough to survive when the parents are no longer there to catch them. Raising a child while carrying the quiet weight of your own unsupervised childhood doesn't mean you are cold or contradictory. It simply means you are a bridge between two entirely different worlds. You are translating the survival skills of the past into the emotional language of the present. If this video helped you recognize yourself or your parents, you are not alone here. This channel is a space for understanding the quieter psychological patterns that shape how we think, connect, and move through the world. If you found this meaningful, consider subscribing so you don't miss future conversations. And if you are a Gen X parent, drop a comment below and tell me how your childhood shaped the way you raise your kids today. Your perspective might help someone else finally feel understood. Thank you for watching.